this kind of has a cascading impact over the place. The question really is, does this current peace and the negotiations that are going to be happening this weekend, will this lead to a lasting peace and then a reopening of the straits? We don't know that, either of us. We also don't know that if it doesn't lead to that, and if conflict were to break out again, would that have an even larger impact or a longer-term impact on energy infrastructure? We've already had some damage to energy infrastructure. The Qatar gas field, which produces a large part of Qatar's gas, has got damaged to the extent of, I think, 17% of its output, and people are saying 3 to 5 years to get it fixed. So that's one impact. That's manageable, but not if it spreads further. So the real issue here is we've made a couple of scenarios because none of us know how to predict either the likelihood of hostilities breaking out again, or how will the Hormuz Strait reopen and at what pace. And so based on those ideas, a couple of scenarios, the IMF has got them, we've got ours, very similar. And the baseline is kind of, look, the peace holds, but it takes 3 to 4 months for things to begin to come back to normal in terms of supply disruptions, longer for some of the energy infrastructure. And that leads to, a drop in growth rates around the world of about 0.2, 0.3%, maybe 0.4 in the emerging markets, a little less in the developed world. But as you know, the world held up better economically over the last few years than everybody had thought. So that's not a good thing when we were more resilient as an economy. Inflation.
That is a good thing.
It's not a good thing at all. We were, as an economy, we were more resilient, which was good.
Right.
The impact on that resilience is not a good thing. To have to bring that down just when we were actually showing that we had a resilient economy is not a great thing to happen.
Oh, you mean the war coming at this moment when the world was just...
The impact on the economic system of the world, which was showing resiliency for the last, 3-4 years, despite everybody's opinions that it would be harder, it actually held up pretty well. And people were forecasting something like a 3% GDP expansion in the world overall. That's going to come down by the 0.2, 0.3 that I talked about in the current scenario. In the emerging markets, maybe a little more, by 0.4. Inflation was also seen to be around 3% for the year. Now, you can see that would probably go up, maybe 200-300 basis points in the baseline scenario, much higher if this comes back to a more difficult continuation of the conflict. So that's the way I think about this, like a range of scenarios on inflation and growth. So I worry about making sure that they can come through this crisis targeting what they need to do, but not doing anything that further deteriorates that fiscal space. Meaning, whatever we do with them, we've got to help them think about targeted rather than broad-based, and temporary rather than long-term. And I think that's got to be how we work with our partners. We're in the midst of talking to a number of them. Those are obvious ones based on the island states, for example, have no natural energy resources of any scale. They're also way further out. So as you can imagine, they will get a lower priority even when supplies get back to being resumed. And I think that's the point Kristalina was making when she spoke yesterday. It's a very good point. So in our electrification context of saying we're going to connect 300 million people with the African Development Bank to electricity, one of the things we realized was there's no point trying to manufacture electricity in every country because it's very expensive in some. Some are competitively advantaged. If you're Mozambique, you're competitively advantaged for hydroelectric and natural gas. If you're Ethiopia, you're competitively advantaged for hydroelectric. If you're Kenya, you're competitively advantaged for geothermal. So now, can we use those countries and create linked electrification markets through transmission grids with neighboring countries and create effectively an intra-regional trade in electricity and deliver the outcomes of electrification at competitive prices? And so you can see this impacts everything. Food, obviously, but electrification to medicines, everything you could do much more with a better focus on intra-regional and bilateral trade deals. I completely agree with you. about. Fiscal headroom in public spaces cannot be relied upon to be the job creation engine of the coming period. The reality is 90% of jobs are created in the private sector. The overwhelming majority of them are created in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We need to think about those people and their ability and the entrepreneurs that they breed and the chance that young people can get from the creative economy and entrepreneurship and all that, and make that work in a virtuous cycle. So this spring meeting is focused on governance. The prior meeting, the problem is we can't do this alone. We got to get this snowball to roll downhill, gathering a lot of snow as it goes along to reach that amazing number of 800 million. That's the gap we're looking at. I'm pretty hopeful that these kinds of constructive policies can help change things. I don't know that you can ever get to a situation of utopia and everybody is taken care of in the coming 15 years. I would doubt that's going to happen. But if we don't do it, the implications are quite severe in terms of illegal migration and instability. And if we do get work done, the benefits are amazing in terms of the benefits to not just those people, but their consumption patterns and therefore for companies. The AI conversations in the developed world, and I was talking about this when I was in Davos as well, are all about large language models and generational AI. And that's important for where we are going with the development of AI as a technology. I get it. But that requires four things to happen. The first is computing power, lots of it. The second is electricity, lots of it. The third is data. The more you have, the better the predictive power of that data. But you have to keep it in its simplest form so you can do all the combinations you want. And it has to be kept with safety and security and privacy. So many buts and ifs in that data. And then the fourth is people who know how to manage all this. I would argue that the emerging markets have very few countries that would fit those four needs. And therefore, I don't think it's large language models and generational AI that the emerging markets are looking for. I think they are looking for the applications of AI that can be delivered, local compute at the edge on a phone. I think Prime Minister Modi, actually, of India, talked about this at the AI summit that India held just a short while ago. And his plea was for the industry to think about applications that could improve the lives of farmers and teachers and students and healthcare. So to give you an example, short velocity cycle is what we're going through. Longer velocity is this jobs circumstance, or water, which to me is the other topic of our spring meetings. Water is going to be a very serious challenge in the coming years. 4 billion people are water insecure today. We're going to try and make a difference to that with a lot of MDB partners, and you will hear that during the spring meetings on what we're trying to do there to reach 1 billion out of the 4 in the coming few years, out of which we'll do 400 million, but the other MDBs are doing the rest. And so together, we're going at this topic. And I think that's a longer-term problem. It's not tomorrow. It's not today. Today is the crisis of this conflict, but we got to walk and chew gum at the same time.
All right. Well, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.